Economic relations between the United States and Canada are once again experiencing a period of turbulence resembling a roller coaster ride. No sooner had talks of a possible truce subsided than a new wave of tariff battles threatened to engulf both countries. The imposition of new duties, initially scheduled for the first week of February, was postponed for a month as a result of negotiations between the leaders of the two nations. However, before this deadline expired, the American side confirmed its intention to proceed as planned, prompting an immediate response from Canada. While experts predicted a further escalation of the conflict, the U.S. administration unexpectedly decided to suspend the introduction of tariffs on automotive products for another month. This maneuver, providing a temporary respite for the automotive industry, adds further uncertainty to an already complex picture of trade relations. The trade policy of the United States continues to be a source of uncertainty, but against this backdrop, unexpected trends are emerging in the energy sector, adding an additional layer of intrigue to the economic relations between the countries. After the Trump administration imposed a 25% tariff on Canadian imports, Ontario Premier Doug Ford issued a strong statement threatening to cut off electricity exports to the United States. Ford emphasized Ontario's important role in supplying energy to American households, highlighting their dependence on Canadian supplies. They depend on our energy and they need to feel it. If they want to punch us, we'll punch them twice as hard. Indeed, Ontario is a major supplier of electricity to states such as New York, Michigan, and Minnesota, providing energy to approximately 1.5 million American homes in 2023. Ford was quick to point out this dependence, stating, "If they want to try." The statement about the intention to destroy Ontario, even to the point of cutting off electricity with a provocative smile, could not but cause alarm in American political circles. New York Governor Kathy Hochul expressed hope that the long-standing partnerships between her state and the Canadian province would serve as a reliable barrier against such radical steps. However, the shadow of threat looms over energy markets. Experts warn of a possible surge in electricity prices, especially in those regions where dependence on Canadian supplies is highest. Such an increase in tariffs would inevitably lead to an increase in production costs, which would call into question the competitiveness of local goods and, as a result, could lead to job losses. It is noteworthy that until recently the politician emphasized abandoning Canadian imports, seeking to demonstrate the complete energy independence of the United States. Today, however, he is advocating for the resumption of construction of a large oil pipeline designed to connect Canadian oil fields with American refineries. This unexpected turn highlights a paradoxical reality. While positioning himself as a tough negotiator with allies, he is nevertheless forced to recognize the deep interconnectedness and dependence of the U.S. energy sector on Canadian resources. Donald Trump's rhetoric regarding North American energy policy is inconsistent, especially with regard to supplies from Canada. These fluctuations are fueling new rounds of discussions. Over the past few months, the former U.S. president has shifted from anger to a more conciliatory approach. From asserting that the United States has no need for Canadian oil, he has moved to actively supporting infrastructure projects, such as the infamous Keystone XL pipeline. At a press briefing, Trump criticized the Biden administration for halting construction, contrasting it with his own position. He stated that the country is thriving and urged the company involved in Keystone XL to return to the U.S. and complete the project. Trump emphasized that his administration would ensure rapid approval and immediate commencement of work, offering alternative companies to take on the task if necessary. Such statements are once again fueling debate about the feasibility of resuming construction of the pipeline, around which disagreements continue. Passions are running high around the prospects for the implementation of this project. Its supporters predict the creation of thousands of new jobs and the strengthening of North American energy independence. Opponents, on the other hand, are sounding the alarm, pointing to the serious environmental risks, including potential oil spills and increased carbon dioxide emissions, exacerbating the greenhouse effect. It is also worth remembering the regulatory and logistical complexities, especially given the fact that TC Energy, which initially initiated the project, has already dismantled key components and reoriented its business strategy. In addition to everything else, during a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron, Donald Trump reaffirmed his intention to impose a 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico starting on March 3, 2025. He emphasized that the tariffs would be implemented strictly according to schedule. As the deadline approached, Trump only strengthened his commitment, stating, "Regardless of what duties they levy on us, we will levy similar duties on them." In response, the Canadian government is developing a comprehensive strategy of countermeasures aimed at protecting the interests of domestic businesses, workers, and the economy as a whole. Canada's countermeasures to U.S. trade restrictions will take effect immediately and will remain in place until the American tariffs are lifted. The country is demonstrating firmness in defending its economic interests without abandoning diplomatic avenues for resolving the dispute. In response to the U.S. actions, Canada plans to introduce reciprocal 25% tariffs on imports of American goods totaling $155 billion. This strategy will be implemented in 2 phases to ensure the most effective and balanced response. The first phase, which will begin shortly, will affect approximately $30 billion worth of goods from the United States. Sectors such as agriculture, consumer goods, and industrial materials will be targeted. The tariffs will affect American beef, pork, poultry, dairy products, as well as a variety of fruits and vegetables. In addition, the new duties will extend to processed foods, including ready-to-eat snacks, breakfast cereals, and soft drinks. Canadian consumers will also feel the effects of the tariffs, which will be applied to alcoholic beverages. American bourbon and Tennessee whiskey, beer, and fine wines are in the crosshairs of the new economic measures. The list of consumer goods subjected to tariff pressure includes washing machines, refrigerators, and dishwashers, as well as a wide range of personal care products, cosmetics, and clothing items. Industrial materials such as steel, aluminum, plastics, rubber, wood, and paper are also subject to these measures. The second phase, scheduled for March 25, 2025, and preceded by a period of public consultation, targets an additional $125 billion of American imports. The automotive industry will feel the full brunt of the new tariffs, affecting passenger cars, light trucks, and components, including batteries, tires, and electrical components. The aerospace and defense industries have also not escaped the consequences, facing tariffs on American aviation parts and maintenance services. Additional agricultural products, such as corn, soybeans, wheat, and rice, as well as processed meats, have been included in the expanded list. In response to economic pressure from the U.S., Canada is developing a multifaceted strategy to protect its economic interests. The possibility of imposing restrictions on the export of strategically important minerals such as lithium, nickel, and cobalt destined for American companies is being considered. In addition to tariff measures, Ottawa is exploring additional ways to protect the national economy. One key element is a potential ban on American firms participating in government procurement at the federal and provincial levels. This measure is aimed at supporting domestic businesses through government spending while creating obstacles for U.S. trade policies that Canada considers unfair. In addition to this, the Canadian government is exploring the possibility of introducing export controls on key energy resources, including oil and natural gas. Provincial authorities are also contributing to the overall strategy. In particular, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario is considering removing alcoholic beverages produced in the U.S. from its stores to support Canadian producers. These actions demonstrate Canada's determination to protect its economy and respond to protectionist measures taken by the United States. In modern international relations, there is an increasing trend of using economic influence as an instrument of foreign policy. States seek to maximize their benefits while minimizing the negative consequences for their own citizens and businesses. Donald Trump's recent statements towards Canada are a prime example of escalating tensions between the countries. His rhetoric, already quite harsh, has recently taken on an openly confrontational character. After stating that Canadian imports were unnecessary, Trump went even further, suggesting the possibility of Canada joining the United States as the 51st state. In his Truth Social posts, Trump claimed that the U.S. spends vast sums subsidizing the Canadian economy while not needing Canadian goods. He emphasized that America has sufficient energy reserves, produces its own cars, and has a surplus of lumber. According to Trump, without American subsidies, Canada would not be able to exist as an independent nation. In this regard, he proposed that Canada become part of the U.S., promising lower taxes. Donald Trump's statements about Canada caused a wide resonance, especially his phrase about much better military protection for the people of Canada and no tariffs. These words sounded like an unprecedented threat of economic pressure on one of the closest allies of the U.S. The tone of Trump's statements ranged from complete denial of the value of Canada to recognition of its important role in ensuring the energy security of the United States. On the one hand, he claimed that we don't need the products they have, and on the other, he stated that if Canada becomes a state, there will be no tariffs and taxes will be much lower with much better military protection. This rhetoric clearly shows a desire to view Canada not as an equal partner, but rather as an economic asset that could be absorbed. Along with reflections on the possibility of Canada joining the U.S., Trump continued to insist on a tough tariff policy. He emphasized that Canada has treated us very badly in trade, but now Canada will have to start paying, introducing 25% tariffs on most Canadian goods, but maintaining benefits for the energy sector. In the political landscape, calls for a revision of trade relations between the U.S. and Canada have resurfaced. One influential politician proposed imposing tariffs on Canadian goods at a rate of 10%, explaining this by the need to protect the American labor market and ensure national security. In his opinion, such measures will force Canada to step up efforts in addressing the problems of illegal immigration and the trafficking of the dangerous drug fentanyl. The administration of this politician presents tariffs not just as an economic instrument, but also as a way to achieve more favorable trading conditions. It is emphasized that the United States is heavily dependent on Canada, which provides a quarter of all daily oil imports. The proposal to include Canada as the 51st state is not just loud rhetoric, but also a tactical move. In his address, the politician stated that Canada should become part of the American economic system with lower taxes and enhanced security. He puts Canada before a choice: either integrate into the economic structure of the U.S. or face tough tariff restrictions. The idea of Canada joining the United States was met with undisguised rejection in the land of the maple leaf. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called this prospect nothing less than a snowball's chance in hell, and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre firmly stated, Canada will never become the 51st state. We are a strong, independent, and sovereign country. A wave of patriotism has risen across the country. Citizens, outraged by the hints from the American side, began wearing hats with the inscription "Canada is not for sale," expressing their determination to maintain independence. In the wings of one of the business forums, microphones recorded Trudeau's words addressed to business leaders: "I believe the Trump administration is well aware of our reserves of strategically important minerals. Perhaps that is why they do not stop talking about absorption and turning us into the 51st state." These words underscore the deep concern of the Canadian leadership for the country's sovereignty and foreshadow potential long-term tensions in relations with its southern neighbor. The influence exerted by thoughts and feedback expressed in the comments cannot be overstated. Appreciation for the attention serves as a transition to considering the energy partnership between the United States and Canada, a relationship that has stood the test of time and is of strategic importance. Canada consistently holds the position of leading foreign supplier of crude oil to the U.S., facilitated by both geographical proximity and the extensive network of pipelines connecting the two countries. Many American refineries are specifically adapted to process heavy, sour crude oil, which is a primary product of the Canadian oil sands. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, crude oil imports from Canada have reached record levels, exceeding 4 million barrels per day. This volume accounts for about 60% of all crude oil imports into the United States, highlighting the deep economic interdependence of the two countries. In addition to crude oil, natural gas exports from Canada play a key role for U.S. energy markets, especially in regions where infrastructure is closely linked to cross-border supplies. Trade routes between the United States and Canada demonstrate a deep interconnectedness, particularly in the realm of crude oil supplies. Flows of black gold between the two countries reach impressive volumes, with the American side showing particular interest in Canadian heavy oil. This type of hydrocarbon feedstock extracted from Canadian subsoil is ideally suited for processing at specialized refineries located within the United States. Between 2012 and 2023, imports of Canadian oil into the United States reached their peak, amounting to approximately 4.42 million barrels per day. This figure clearly demonstrates the extent of the American economy's dependence on Canadian supplies. Canadian oil, characterized by its high sulfur content and dense consistency, is traditionally valued lower than lighter grades. However, its unique composition makes it indispensable for a number of American refineries that do not have the ability to use alternative sources of raw materials. Pricing for Canadian oil benchmarked against the Western Canadian Select WCS grade takes into account both its specific characteristics and logistical considerations. WCS trades at a discount to the benchmark West Texas Intermediate WTI grade due to its higher sulfur content. Nevertheless, its availability plays a key role in ensuring the stable operation of refineries adapted to process this type of raw material. Canadian natural gas is an important element of energy cooperation between the United States and Canada. An extensive network of pipelines connects Canadian fields with American markets, providing stable and advantageous supplies. In recent years, imports of natural gas from Canada to the U.S. have reached nearly 8.5 billion cubic feet per day, indicating the scale of trade relations between the countries. These supplies play a key role in providing heating for homes, supporting industrial processes, and generating electricity in the United States, especially during the winter months when energy demand increases sharply. Despite the growth in domestic production in the U.S., Canadian natural gas remains a preferred source due to its accessibility and geographical proximity. The interconnectedness of North American energy markets ensures that Canadian gas continues to supplement supplies from the United States, thereby strengthening the stability of the region's energy infrastructure. The economic interaction between the two countries extends far beyond traditional oil and gas, encompassing electricity and strategically important industrial materials. And while the volume of electricity trade is less than transactions involving fossil fuels, its role is becoming key to maintaining the stability of the energy system, especially in the northeastern states. The provinces of Quebec and Ontario actively export electricity to regions such as New York, New England, Ohio, and Michigan, playing a stabilizing role during peak demand or in the event of power outages. These cross-border energy flows strengthen the energy security of the entire region, creating reserve capacity during periods of high load. In addition to electricity, Canada supplies critical minerals, uranium, and other resources needed for energy production and industrial needs in the United States. These materials support sectors such as nuclear energy and new technologies, further strengthening bilateral ties in the energy sector. A broader look at the economic interaction between the two countries reveals deep ties between the United States and Canada extending far beyond traditional energy. An example of this is the story surrounding the Keystone XL pipeline, which for more than a decade remained at the epicenter of fierce political, environmental, and economic disputes in North America. Conceived in 2008 by TC Energy, formerly known as TransCanada, this ambitious project was designed to establish oil supplies from the Canadian province of Alberta to refineries in the United States. Supporters of the project emphasized its potential economic benefits and strengthening of energy security, while opponents pointed to serious environmental risks and non-compliance with regulatory requirements. The Keystone pipeline system, which has been in operation since 2010, already represents an impressive network through which crude oil from the Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin of Alberta is transported to various destinations in the United States, including refineries in Illinois and Texas, as well as major storage hubs in Oklahoma. As for Keystone XL, or KXL, this project, conceived as a large-scale expansion of an existing network, the Keystone XL project was envisioned as an impressive 1,200-mile artery designed to radically transform the landscape of oil transportation in North America. This pipeline was intended to provide a more direct and efficient route for delivering crude oil from the Canadian province of Alberta, known for its rich deposits, to Steel City, Nebraska. Keystone XL was projected to increase the system's capacity by 830,000 barrels per day, significantly facilitating the delivery of crude oil to refineries located on the Gulf Coast. This, in turn, could have substantially reduced logistical bottlenecks and enhanced the overall efficiency of the region's oil industry. However, despite the apparent economic benefits, the Keystone XL project faced fierce criticism and scrutiny from environmental advocates and public organizations. The primary concern centered on the extraction of crude oil from Alberta's oil sands, a process widely acknowledged to result in significantly higher greenhouse gas emissions compared to traditional extraction methods. Studies indicated that emissions associated with oil sands crude could exceed those from conventional crude oil by as much as 81%, raising serious concerns about the project's potential contribution to climate change. Furthermore, the proposed pipeline route traversed environmentally sensitive areas, including the Nebraska sandhills and a vital aquifer, increasing the risk of contamination and other adverse environmental impacts. The Ogallala Aquifer, a giant reservoir of fresh water that supplies a significant portion of North America, became the epicenter of heated debate. Environmentalists raised alarms, warning that any accident during the pipeline's construction or operation could be catastrophic for the drinking water supply and agriculture of an entire region. Adding further complexity to the conflict was the increasingly vocal opposition from indigenous communities. They viewed the project as a direct threat to their ancestral lands, sacred sites, and the violation of historical treaties. Legal battles initiated by Native American tribes became a significant obstacle to the project's approval, prolonging regulatory procedures indefinitely. The political fate of Keystone XL resembled a roller coaster, reflecting the volatility of the U.S. political landscape. In 2015, President Barack Obama, concerned about the environmental consequences and the need to reduce carbon emissions, vetoed the project. However, in 2017, President Donald Trump reversed this decision, signing executive orders aimed at expediting construction approval. A key element of Donald Trump's campaign rhetoric was the promise to revive the Keystone XL project, thereby emphasizing the prospects of creating new jobs and strengthening the country's energy independence. However, upon assuming the presidency in January 2021, Joe Biden revoked the construction permit for the pipeline on his first day in office. A clear indication of his administration's priorities in addressing climate change and supporting renewable energy projects. Following this decision, TC Energy officially announced the termination of the Keystone XL project in June 2021, halting all construction activities and commencing the dismantling of already constructed infrastructure. Now, with Trump again advocating for the revival of the pipeline, the political battles surrounding Keystone XL have reignited. Trump's position reflects broader concerns about energy security and economic stability, especially amid instability in global oil markets. Supporters of the project's revival argue that it would create new jobs, strengthen North American energy independence, and provide long-term economic benefits. The environmental battles surrounding the ill-fated Keystone XL pipeline continue unabated, like a wildfire fueled by the winds of controversy. The prospects for its resurrection remain uncertain, like morning smog over industrial landscapes. A difficult path of renegotiation with regulatory bodies lies ahead, with environmental organizations and indigenous communities lurking at every turn of the legal trail, ready to challenge every step. Moreover, TC Energy, like a captain abandoning a sinking ship, has relinquished the project, leaving the reins in the hands of a new, yet unseen organization. Given all these obstacles, the revival of Keystone XL appears not merely a complex task, but a veritable Gordian knot in U.S.-Canada relations. Both countries, like acrobats on a tightrope, are balancing trade disputes, energy security issues, and a volatile geopolitical landscape. The future of their economic alliance depends on their ability to find equilibrium between national interests and environmental obligations. Whether through revitalized infrastructure projects like monuments of the industrial era or through cooperation in alternative energy like beacons pointing the way to the future, the relationship between the U.S. and Canada continues to evolve, resembling a complex dance between two partners striving for harmony. And so this video comes to an end, and the creators express their sincere gratitude to every viewer who shared this time with them. If the presented content has touched your feelings, sparked interest, or inspired new achievements, the authors urge you not to skimp on support. By simply pressing the like button and subscribing to the channel, you become part of a growing community of like-minded people. Believe me, your activity is not just numbers, it is a powerful incentive for further creativity and development. And right now, a preview of another interesting video from this channel appears on the screen, which you might also enjoy. Don't miss the chance to discover something new.